Hello, everybody. It's Thursday, and every other Thursday, I get to sit down and have tea or coffee or my favorite beverage with one of my favorite people, Dr. Judi Bloom. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. How are you, Richard?
I am doing so great, and today we're going to be talking about creativity. On the bottom of the screen, you see here Doug DeVita Plays. He's our first guest we're going to bring up today. But before we bring him on, I want to ask what's new and exciting in your world, and how have you been creative today?
What's new and exciting? I'm settling into a new home. I've been going to a couple of different local theater presentations, seeing some terrific theater along the way here. I'm going to be, I volunteer at a couple of theaters here.
Drop my name.
I will either doing ushering or bartending or whatever they need. So it's fun. I have a lot of fun doing it.
That's great.
And
I was talking to someone just yesterday about the 13th Street Repertory Theater here in New York. I don't know if Doug or Deborah, Jean Templin, who are both here today, have had any experience with this theater, but it was a theater that I worked at when I first came to New York. And in order to be an entertainer, an actor in the theater, we had to volunteer X number of hours each week doing box office,
right,
cleaning up in the theater, cleaning the bathrooms,
right.
doing lights, doing everything. And I think it's important for everyone to get a sense of what those jobs are in the
Mhm.
theater. It gives you a greater appreciation for the people who do those jobs. So, as someone who is getting out there and doing live theater again, I want to give a shout out to all of the people who volunteer and work behind the scenes that people don't know about. We can't do it without you.
That's right. You really can't do it without them, and and it's fun. You get to meet new people and feel like you're part of it. I was doing the last one I did was for they did Bonnie and Clyde, which was absolutely terrific. It was funny, it was heartwarming, it was loving. It was just wonderful theater. And really, when you volunteer, you also get to know the actors, as well as all the patrons coming in. And it really just is a whole different way of experiencing the theater.
It's great. Well, we want to bring our first guest on, but one of the things that I love to do is I have my 4 mystery cards laid out. So pull the number 1 through 4 and let's get started.
3.
And your question is, if you had a difficult side, and maybe you do, and I don't know about that. And when I say difficult, I mean an aspect of yourself that makes you angry. And if so, how do you express that without ruffling other people's feathers? Or do you care about ruffling other people's feathers?
I think it depends on the circumstance. When my kids were little, I'm a Leo, right? And so I'm a tiger mom in that sense, right? And when people would do things, even other kids would do things that were not okay with me to my kids, I'd be all over them. I was right out there, like, you do not do that, not to my kid. So there's but it's a protective piece. It's not
Mhm.
just an angry piece. It's a protective piece. Um, Otherwise, if I feel my feathers getting ruffled about something, I try to turn it around and really understand where the other person is coming from. So, easiest way to do that is just to repeat what they said, right? All right, so you're saying blah, 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 blah. Okay, tell me more about that. And it turns the whole conversation around.
I totally agree. And I've talked about this book before. One of my favorite books is The Four Agreements. And I
Mhm.
always try to say in the back of my mind, it's not about you, Richard. Whatever they're going through, let them go through it and try to be as open minded as you possibly can. Sometimes, everyone, I know that's not always possible, but we can try. So I want to bring on our first guest today, and this is Doug DeVita. And I became a fan of his years ago when I saw the Phillie trilogy. Uh, Brilliant play. And just as COVID was hitting, he created another incredible show called Fable, which is a fable about a musical fable. Those in the theater know exactly what we're talking about. Here's a little clue. Here he is with Dainty June, that the show is about. But let me ask you, Doug, before we jump in, do you have a rough side? And in this business, we don't always get the yeses that we're looking for. So, how do you deal with getting past those rough patches?
I have a room in my apartment where I throw things. You think I'm joking?
Oh, no, no. I think it's great. And is anyone else in the room when you're throwing things?
No, not even the dog.
Okay, that's good. So, Doug, I mean, I mentioned these two plays, and there's so many more that you've done. Speaking of the dog, how many plays have you written that have been published up to this point?
4. I've written 4 that have been published. I don't know what he's barking at. He's
That's
crazy.
okay. You know, we love dogs.
Yeah, our term for him is quirky.
Yes.
But I've written 4 that have been published. There are 2 in the queue, but I don't want to talk about them because there are productions pending, and I don't like to have my scripts published until they've been produced. So,
Uh-huh.
but I just want to go back a little when you were talking about 13th Street Rep.
Mm-hmm.
Before you saw it, there was a developmental reading of Phillie's Trilogy there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, back
Was
in,
Edith O'Hara still around when you did it?
it's still there, yeah, but she wasn't active. Somebody else produced it, but it was just a reading, and sorry,
That's okay. Don't apologize.
but it was lovely. It was just really, really lovely to have it done there. This was back in January of 2018, so it was before the production at Fresh Fruit.
So, what is your process when you get an idea for a new play in terms of getting it from here onto the written page?
Revenge.
A lot goes on in that room.
Who are we getting revenge on?
No, it starts out because something pisses me off, or someone pisses me off, and I learned a long time ago to write it down and get it out of my system that way, and do it on paper so I can't click send, and but a lot of times stuff comes out of that is like, oh, wait a minute, and if there's something that has it really strikes me, I'll bring it into one of my classes
Hmm.
and see if it can be developed. And that's how Phillie's Trilogy was started. That's how Fable was started. Well, Fable
Okay,
actually was not started out of revenge. Fable was started just because I've been fascinated with June my entire life.
why don't you tell those who may not be theater aficionados what the show is about?
Which one?
Fable.
Fable, yeah. Fable is about the creation of Gypsy, the musical Gypsy, but it is from the 97-year-old June Havoc's perspective. The little backstory, what started that one was when I worked at Abington Theater Company, there was no receptionist. You just picked up the phone if it rang. And June was on the honorary board. She was one of the founding members of the company, and she would often call. And there were several times when I'd pick up the phone, it would be her, and usually I just passed her through to Jan, who she wanted to talk to. But this one day, she was going to talk to whoever picked up the phone. Period. The end. And it was me. And it was the day that the Encore's production was opening, the summer run, the first summer run at
With
Encore's.
Hattie Lapone.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
And she was in a mood. She just was going to talk to whoever. As I said, she wasn't happy. I mean, she just was not happy. And as she talked, I was listening to her and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm seeing this in a completely different light now. I am seeing her perspective. I'm seeing what this show has meant for her, and not always in a very positive way. And that was the germ. That was what started it. And I mean, I did years of research before I even put a word down on paper. And I had several false starts before I decided to make it a memory play
Hmm.
and make it all happening in her mind, in the 97-year-old June's mind.
Mhm.
So, and we have flash. There are three Junes in the story. There's the 97-year-old June. There's the 40. How old was she? Was in her mid 40s when the show was done. And then there's a baby June who doesn't speak but sings and dances. Her sister Gypsy, her mother Rose, Ethel, of course,
Hmm.
Ethel Merman, for those of you who don't know, Jerome Robbins, and Arthur Lawrence, and some of them double parts too. Like Gypsy is doubled by the actress who also plays June Havoc's the 97-year-old June's nurse, and Arthur and Jerry double as a marathon MC and a marathon floor walker. Not a lot of people know that June, after she left the act and married Bobby the hoofer, and then divorced him, she supported herself for years doing the marathons in the
That's
30s.
right. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
she did, I think, 6 or 7 of those marathons, and she holds the record for dancing the longest hours. Something like, I don't know, 4 months on her feet. And
Uh,
she wrote about it, and she wrote a play about it called Marathon 33. So I've weaved that into the show as well.
that's great. Judy, do you have any questions before we bring on our next guest?
No, I think it's fascinating, and I love that your process comes out of some, things that just really annoy you or tick you off or whatever. That's the impetus for you to just get it out on paper and then turn it into something entertaining, which is a way of processing it, right?
I'm half Italian and half Irish. It's got to go somewhere.
So's my
Well,
husband.
that's wonderful.
The
So you
American
know, so you
combination.
know.
I know.
So there are 3 mystery cards laid out. So let's see what your question is. 1, 2, or 3.
I'll take 3.
And your question is, uh, as you take on new challenges, do you feel calm, confident, and powerful, or the opposite of those words?
Totally the opposite.
Well, I'm
Totally
going
the
to tell
opposite.
you about someone who can make you feel calm and powerful, and that's our next guest, Patrice McKinley. Um, Patrice has done a couple of my shows, but she came into my life as a career coach. We've been working together. Today is actually 100 days. I told her this morning when we had our session. And her teachings are based on the works of Bob Proctor, who has this wonderful book, You Were Born Rich, which is truly changing my life. A little shameless plug for both of us. We are going to be launching a book club based on this book. So if anyone is interested, please, come on board and help us. Now, Patrice, I know a lot about you from doing our sessions together. Welcome to the show. Do you
And
have?
I know a lot about you.
You certainly do. Do you have a room to get rid of your anger and frustrations and
No. No, you know what? I have my car, and I love my car. I sing in my car. I vocalize in my car. I scream in my car. I get angry at other drivers in my car. I do all those things. So I think it's my car. And when I lived in New York, I missed having a car. I really did. Then I paid for a therapist, and maybe I screamed into a pillow at that point. But yeah, I love my car.
well, there are a few questions that I want to ask you, which will probably shed a little light on the work that you do.
Hmm.
First of all, I know that you studied with Bob Proctor.
Yeah.
And what was it about what you learned from that you wanted to take to another level and help other people in terms of setting their own goals, creativity, manifestation, whatever you want to call it? But what took you from student to teacher?
Well, I had started out learning, becoming a certified coach with another teacher, and that was like really um, a strenuous. I don't even know if that's the right word. It was a lot of training. There was a lot of training involved in that, And it was a lot of shadow work, like Jungian kind of owning your own shadow and getting into the dark side of yourself and that sort of thing. And I really enjoyed it, but I found it to be very limiting in what I was able to do with my clients. Just the audience that I could work with, the amount of clients I could get. So I knew of Bob Proctor because of my former teacher, and I just happened to, get a YouTube invite to, talk to somebody within his company. And so I decided right then and there that I was going to become a consultant with Bob and learn his training. And what I teach is a program called Thinking into Results, which is a more comprehensive program. You Were Born Rich is kind of like a primer to Thinking into Results. But I started out, from a lot of wounds of my own and being a recovering alcoholic and not going to meetings and all of that and doing a lot of therapy and never really finding where the answers that I wanted. So that's how I became a coach kind of by default, because I just kept taking these workshops and going, places. And I was like, okay, the next level is to coach other people and be of service. So that's how I came about it, And I really like Bob because he's very practical, but yet talks about energy and quantum physics and the law of vibration. And yet he works with a lot of business people. He's worked with business owners and corporations and things like that. So it's very hands-on and practical and that sort of thing. So I really appreciated that.
Now, I know what I get from you, but for someone out there who is thinking, do I need a career coach? Do I need a life coach? What would be your answer to that for someone who's contemplating whether or not they want to jump into those waters?
Well, honestly, what I say to that is everybody needs a life coach. It's everybody, no matter where you are, your level of success or what you're doing, there's always more to create. There's always a next level of awareness that you can get to as a spiritual being, as a person walking this life. Mm-hmm. So there's always somewhere where we are like, oh, if only I could get there. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire. You always want more, and you should want more. You should be never satisfied. You should always be growing and achieving and creating, which is what your show is about today, creating. And so I'm always encouraging people to go to the next level wherever they are. And there's usually some sort of pain point with everybody. And, I like helping people and inspiring them to get to living their best life,
Absolutely. Judi, any questions or comments?
No, I know, Patrice, one of the things that you tell people is, to truly believe what they can do and what they want. And, if you think about it, that's exactly what an athlete does, right?
Right. Yeah.
An athlete, most of the game is in their head. It's a mental.
Yeah, absolutely. Right?
And they tell themselves, I got this. I can do this. I got this. And nothing is going to stop me. Right. Right. And that's really what you're talking about is teaching people to have that kind of mental fortitude. I was blessed in that, my Leo stubbornness or whatever stood me well in a couple of careers because I just always believed I could do them.
Yes.
I didn't take no for an answer. But it's
and the other part of that that's really cool is the athlete, like the ice skater, the football player. They practice those touchdowns or those double whatever, triple whatever.
Pirouettes.
They have practiced that in their mind over and over again through repetition. Yeah. And repetition is really the key to, manifesting what you want, seeing yourself and believing you can get there and walking your life with that already created is really a big part of what this is all about.
Absolutely. Doug, any questions, comments before we bring on our next guest?
Me? No, I don't have any questions. I just want to say that I found this inspiring, very inspiring, and I'm going to order that book.
Oh, good.
Well, and I have to say, Doug, what you do as a playwright is so inspirational to me, because you grab an idea that comes from, you know, somewhere out there, something sparks an idea, and then you put it down on paper and you create something. And that's how the creative process works. We all have the ability to tap into, you know, this infinite power to we can accept or reject an idea, and then we can impress it on our subconscious mind and move it out into our physical actions and stuff. And that's what you've done. And it's just a perfect example of how this creative process works. So congratulations on everything that you've done.
Actually, Doug, you manifest it. That's exactly right. You know, and that's what we're talking about, is being able to manifest in your life what it is you want.
Yeah.
And before you order the book, talk to Patrice. Yes. She'll save you a little money there.
Richard, she has to choose her question, her number.
No, I'm going to do that before we bring on Deborah. So, Patrice, 1 or 2?
I'll take 2.
And your question is, when has been an opportunity in your life where you said yes to something and it catapulted you to the next step or level in your career?
Well, I'd say saying yes to investing a lot of money, a shit ton of money, into becoming a certified coach. You know, it's changed my life much for the better. And I hope that I've helped a lot of people create a life they love as well. So that's definitely been a great thing.
Well, I love working with you, and I'm thrilled that you're here today. So a shameless plug for me, but it's a segue into our next guest. As you all know, I'm doing a show celebrating 60 years of Hello, Dolly. And over 10 years ago, I met this Dolly, Deborah Jean Templin, who did a brilliant production in Philadelphia. And she is also has an incredible show that is available for booking for all of you out there. And Doug, if you're looking for a great actress, this is the woman. And it's called Unsinkable Women, Stories and Songs from the Titanic. And she has toured all over the country with this show. And she's been here before, and here she is now. Deborah Jean Templin.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, there I am. Hi.
Here you are. So I'm going to begin by asking you, do you have a room in your house for getting your frustrations out?
Well, I've been living in 450 square feet for the past 47 years.
Wow.
So when I feel frustrated, I go outside and I walk in Riverside Park. And when it was very icy yesterday, I said, I don't care what they cost. I've got to get snow boots because I don't see the frustration stopping. I have to walk. That's my thing. And thank God I've never owned a car in New York City. My carbon footprint is low. I'm a strong walker. I have to leave my apartment and take a walk.
Okay.
That's what I do. My room.
No, go ahead.
Oh, my room is I very much, I love West 85th Street. I love Riverside Park. And since I would say there was an election, someone was elected and I went, I've got to be a poll worker. I've got to be friendly. I've got to make people want to come and vote. I don't care how you vote, just come vote. When I've worked as a poll worker since the pandemic, and I've also worked as a census taker because we couldn't go on stage. But my proudest moment is that when people come up to my desk to vote, they'll go, hi, Deborah Jean. I'm a person that says hi to people on the street and they know I'm not crazy.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's great.
I'm proud of that.
Well, maybe you've just answered this next question somewhat. But what is a moment? Well, let's talk about your career specifically. A moment in your career where you said yes and it catapulted you to the next level?
Well, I didn't really know anyone on the East Coast. And in 1973, I got an invitation to work at Trinity Rep in Providence, Rhode Island. I knew no one in New England. I only knew like maybe the Philadelphia. I'd never been to any of these places. I've been to Washington, D.C. when I was 16 or 17 and to learn about how Congress works. It was through a 4-H program, but I'd never been there. So I went, I'm going to say yes to that job. I don't know anybody, but I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And people seem to like me and I like people. So if I go open-handed, like, hi, they're not going to kill me. I just know everything's going to be okay.
So, but tell everybody where you're from, because
I grew up on a dairy farm in Minnesota. And this is going to go right back to you, Doug, because I went to the Guthrie. And one of the first shows that I saw was I Said the Fly, written by June Havoc.
Ah.
And in this show, it's a play that she wrote, and it was all about vaudeville. And it was all about the people in vaudeville and, you know, making your food from your trunk and ironing your clothes, etc. And there was a girl in the show at the Guthrie who was supposed to be from Minnesota, right? You're following me so far.
Mhm.
This actress had a Brooklyn accent. And all I wanted to do in my whole life was work at the Guthrie. I was upset. I wrote June Havoc a letter. And when you were talking about June, I do know where my stuff is, okay? I found my letter that I got from June Havoc, August 11th, 1975. I did tell her, you know, thank you for your nice letter. You seem busy and happy. And that, of course, is the main objective, isn't it? Blah, 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 blah. I have been working rather consistently on new things, which makes me happy. And this winter will be a new Broadway show. Keep up the good work and stay well. Sincerely, June Havoc. And in this play, there was a woman that I noticed was from Minnesota, but she lived in New York. And I really didn't know her, but I wrote her a note. I sent it backstage. I said, I'm moving to the East Coast. I see that you worked in Providence, Rhode Island. And she gave me courage. So it's like I was always, hey, you want to know something? Ask the person who's there. So I went to see this show and I wrote to the author and she wrote back to me and I still have the letter and it's still important to me. And then she became kind of a pen pal. And when I got Annie, when I played Grace Farrell and Annie, I went, wouldn't it be fun if June played Miss Hannigan? And she wrote me, I said, I think they're looking for a Miss Hannigan. And she got the Broadway show.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I liked her. And I got a postcard. I don't have it. And I remember she invited me to her place in Weston, Connecticut, and I didn't go. Regret it all my life. No, but she did a lot for me because she wrote back to me. You know, I think it doesn't take much to say happy birthday on Facebook. It says a lot to write a note.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I met her once when Tyne Daly was doing Gypsy on Broadway. We were invited to a celebration of Julie Stein, who, of course, wrote the music, and June Havoc was there. So it was, and she was just the most gracious, wonderful woman. I think that she really felt that she was the true star of the evening, and she loved the adulation that was coming towards her.
Well,
and
the other thing is that I know she started in musical theater, but she was a dramatic actress, and as somebody who, you know, some of my better contracts have been in musical theater. When I get to be in a, you know, some of my musical theater friends are like, you were in a straight play. How great, you made it through. It was like this, but there's some kind of barrier you're not supposed to be able to do if you're in a musical. You can't act or something. Like you can act with music, but you know. Anyway, it was interesting. One of the things that why do I write? I think revenge is good. Not necessarily revenge. I like to set the record straight. And I love that's what I like to do. And so when I was in Titanic and I loved my job, it was a good show. I was the swing for 7 characters. So I had to know all the lines and blocking and dances for those characters. But I had a lot of time when people weren't sick. It wasn't like Chicago or people weren't doing acrobatics. People weren't getting sick. I was there. But my job was to know these places. And I realized that I started to think, well, what happened to the women who survived? And why I mean, basically Titanic is a wonderful musical, but the millionaires are principal parts, and the millionaires' wives are smaller parts.
Mm.
And or you just go, yes, dear, or something like that. And I go, I bet they had something else to say. And they probably did have something else to say, and they were able to use their inheritance, or they had a lot of things to say once the ship went down. But also the first class, it's easy to find things about them. Second class, not so much. Third class, it's very difficult. I'm in the process. I got COVID this year for the first time. And then I thought, what if no one ever does my play but me? Some people might say, well, that's good. Nobody should do the play but you. No, it's wonderful. And then I thought, no one. So I submitted my play to a publisher in July, and I got a letter back saying they wanted to publish it. And then when I'd never gotten a contract, and that's a different thing. And then I need to get absolutely sure of all the copyright, because these are real people, and I want to make sure everybody's relative is happy. And I have to say that this week I met another descendant of a Titanic survivor, and I would say we're going to be friends. And I can honestly say I've been very respectful to the people that I write about. And I'm excited. And, you know, there's still, 'tis many a slip twixt the cup and the lip, and I won't say that it'll absolutely get done, but I feel strongly that somewhere in America, when I'm no longer here, somebody will be doing the play, and there'll be great roles for women. And that's what I've always wanted. I wanted to give these women a voice. And that mattered to me. And I know that we're supposed to be ambitious and everything, and we're supposed to get things done and make things happen and sometime and think for results and set goals. But lately, my sisters and I have been trying to think more like sloths. Like you can just slow down, Deborah-Jane. Mm-hmm. And that's okay too. My sister said, you know, the sloths have been around longer than we have.
But I want to, say something.
Just the idea that maybe,
based on, what Patricia and I have talked about, is the fact that, and I would like all of you to weigh in on this, that once you set your mind on getting whatever that project is, you will find that people, places, events, things seem to be coming towards you almost with this magnetic field that goes with that. And at least that's what I have been discovering over and over and over again since I committed to doing this new show that I've done. And I'm just wondering if, with the work that you've done, celebrating these women, Deborah, that you feel that that's happened along the way for you as well.
Well, it's certainly, I have been doing the show I've been performing the show for 23 years. Mm-hmm. And not every day, maybe, and obviously not every year, but it's been amazing how people either have a connection to it somehow, or certainly the period of 1912 and now the Gilded Age and movie, like since the Titanic, there's been a movie about the Titanic every decade. I got to meet Walter Lord, who wrote A Night to Remember. I got to sing to Walter Lord. If I do anything else, I mean, he was a very sweet man, and he liked what I was doing, and that made a difference. And I met, sometimes I go, well, I have a booking. It's going to contract to perform in Indiana in January of 2025, and it's a 1,400 seat house. Wow. And I said, well, that's 200 more than the Walnut Street. And I just said, I'm a distinguished American actress. I can fill the space.
Good for you. And
that's what I say almost every day. I mean, because I go like, well, I said, like if it were, I mentioned, like I need this and this. We can't get you that. I said this stage is 50 feet wide. And then I say to myself again, I'm a distinguished American actress. I am. So That's it.
That's great. There's one question left, and I'm going to ask you, how how can you create more space to be vulnerable? What makes you vulnerable in this business?
That I'm going to be 73 on Monday, and I'm still walking and talking. And
Happy birthday! And Doug just had a birthday as well.
I think that since when I started out in this business, I remember reading something: "Women over 40 don't work." So far, I've beat the odds. That's what they said. That's what they said. But I went into some shop and I said, I don't see anybody in the front room. And they said, well, what kind of Botox do you want? And I went, Botox? What are you talking about? This is dermatological. I said, I wanted a facial. And they said, no, we have doctors and nurses here. And I said, no, I don't want cosmetic surgery. I couldn't believe it. And then I said, no, I'm going to go the way of Gene Stapleton. I'm doing it. You know, I just want to be me. I think that's vulnerable is just every day to look at the mirror and say, this is it. This is it. And, you know, someday they'll throw me off the Titanic and I'll be 97. No.
Well, good for you. Judi, do you want to weigh in on anything? And then we're going to do a little round robin with some questions that I pulled together about the creative process.
Well, first of all, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And yeah, and again, you know, you are manifesting everything that you want in your life, and you're saying to yourself, I am a distinguished American actress, and I can do this. I can fill this theater, you know, and you know, just having that attitude is critical to, you know, to success. And you know, you've had that attitude right along, really, that you know, I can do this. And it, you know, that's what happens. You know, you became a successful, distinguished American actress because you decided that's who you were going to be, right?
Yeah.
And you are, and I will say, from someone who have seen you on stage, you are a phenomenal actress. So, a phenomenal actress. Doug, I want to ask you. I mean, the first question that I have here is: what is the most important goal that you have achieved thus far when it comes to Fable?
I'm not supposed to talk about it, but there's a production looming in a fairly well-known regional theater with a pretty hefty budget coming up this year, and that's all I can say. But I have reached the goal of having it produced. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. And Patrice, what have you read this week that has inspired you that you would like other people to read as well?
Oh, I read so many things and they're usually all about manifestation. But this week I've been reading this book, A Happy Pocket Full of Money, Infinite Wealth and Abundance in the Here and Now. And it's all around the same lines. It gets into quantum physics. It's all about your thoughts and your beliefs, and you know, what you observe, you create, and all of that. So I'm kind of a one-note person. A couple of weeks ago during the Christmas break, I read a John Grisham novel, which is, you know, reading a novel is like novel for me. I don't do that. So that's what I'm reading. It's inspiring to me. It's keeping me focused and on track.
Send me the information. I'll put that in the description on.
Okay. Yeah. It's something that one of my clients sent to me or told me about that she was reading. And she was like, oh my God, I love this book. Yeah, but I'd never heard of it before. So.
Deborah, what makes you unsinkable?
I get up, dress up, and show up.
And where does that come from?
Well, my folks were tied to 50 milking cows every morning and every night, and they really had no choice. And if you don't milk a cow, they sound like this. You have a whole barn full of cows making that noise. It's not pleasant. But they work together, and I just go, every morning is a blessing. Every day above the dirt is a good day. And if you get up and you dress up and you show up, if there's an audition to go to that I don't try to go for, chorus parts of 20-year-olds, but if there's a part that is right for me, I will go to an open call because I love it.
Mhm.
If I didn't like auditioning, I wouldn't have come here. And so get up, dress up, show up. If there's not a place for me to perform, I will sing with something called Sing for Your Seniors, and we go to nursing homes and sing, and that's been great. And get up, dress up, show up. I'm not really a government employee, but I could dress like one and be a census taker. Yes. Whatever it is, I want to get up, dress up, show up, and that makes me unsinkable, because when someone says, "What did you do today?" and they say, "Well, I got up and had breakfast and went back to bed for a while," I just
Oh, no.
don't do that. I try to keep going for a while. That's it.
Judi, I want to ask you, with your work, how do you find creativity in the work that you do when it comes to your patients?
Every patient is unique. And that's where the creativity comes in. Psychology is being a successful and a competent and effective psychologist is as much art as science. You have to have the background, you have to have the understanding, the education in order to really be able to conceptualize what's going on in the room. But after that, it's really about intuiting a lot what that person you're working with really needs and what may be stopping them from achieving what it is they want to achieve. And that's the art of it, And we were talking, I think Deborah or Patrice, somebody mentioned, that no matter where you are in terms of how successful you are, there's always things that you can work on, right? I have my first billionaire client, right? Who has decided to start seeing me because there are things he wants to work on, right? And, I think and he's comes from a horrible childhood and background. I mean, awful, and succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, right? And now he's taking the time to start to really look at himself and who he is as a person and what he wants to work on there. So there's and that's a whole different approach with somebody who's at that kind of level versus somebody who is struggling in their life, financially or whatever. So that's where the creativity comes in, is being able to adapt what I do to the person.
Yeah,
That's great. Doug, what does a perfect workday look like for you?
Well, like Deborah Jean, getting up. I try to get down. I try to swim every morning. I don't every morning, but I try to swim. But that jazzes me up. And then, basically, sitting in this is my office. This is our office where I'm sitting. This is where I throw things. And if I can get 3 hours of writing done, it doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or indifferent, then I consider it a successful day. And then
Beautiful.
sometimes I can go past that, but my goal is to write for 3 hours every day.
Good for you. Patrice, I know you wear many hats because I know other aspects of your life, but what is the biggest challenge that you feel that you face doing this work? And how do you get over that or through that?
Well, the biggest challenge is finding clients, quite honestly. That's, as an entrepreneur, that's it's a challenge. There's no doubt about it. Putting yourself out there, especially on social media and all of that, and but I put myself out there in different platforms. That part, and also creating the mindset that I'm a really good coach, and people, just doing all of those things, because I mean, we're kind of all in that same boat. We're all entrepreneurs to some degree, and we have to create our own economy, have to get out there and create and get people interested or inspired, I guess you should say. So, I mean, I love coaching. I love working with people. That always fires me up. And that's the challenging part of the business, really, for me.
Okay. Now, Deborah, beyond getting dressed, showing up, what is the one activity when it comes to your creative process that you are really naturally drawn to? And do you spend at least, as Doug puts it, 3 hours a day working on it?
I've always been a person who arranges things. I think I'm a natural dolly. I'm trying to always hook people together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't make any money doing this, but I make a good network of friends, and that's been, it's like a spider.
Well,
It's like
Dolly, as you know, didn't always make money at it either.
no, that's true. That's true. I like two cards getting together. I have a real need to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there's a place I heard about where you can you write with other writers in the room. Or David Mamet wrote a book about writing in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
He felt more comfortable writing in a restaurant. I feel more comfortable writing at Lincoln Center Library, or just to know that there are other people looking for things there. I mean, my apartment is great for sleeping and eating and relaxing, but I don't really want to. I need to go someplace else where there's like an office per se.
There's a great book out there, and I wish I knew the title of it. But the writer, and if anyone knows, please let me know. But this guy who is in the hospitality industry, and he wrote about his business on Fifth Avenue. And he said, no matter what your profession is, no matter what it is, we are all in the hospitality business.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start thinking in that mindset, it will change the way that we interact with everybody that we deal with.
Well, I have to say the Artist's Way was certainly, I've gone through the Artist's Way 3 times. And sometimes I try when I want, right now I'm redoing the play. I mean, I'm just being absolutely sure everything's perfect. So, and everything, if I quote something that it's okay, checking the copyright, etc. And sometimes I think I wish I would written a play about snowflakes, that's because I wouldn't have to check everything, but that's okay. It's going to take a little time. I find that if I were writing and really working on something new, I have a commonplace book, or I call it a commonplace book, where I put my ideas about something I want to write about. And I've sort of started that. I have photographs. I've always taken documentary photographs, a lot of photographs. And so I just sort of put a little picture, and then I wrote a paragraph about the picture. Mm-hmm. And maybe if I think that those pictures would make a play, I might put them almost like a patchwork quilt on the floor and say, well, that scene, that's episodic. Am I writing a movie, or am I writing a play? I think that way. And I have to say, this young girl that I met, she's 22, and I gave her my sewing machine to use for a year, because she said she wanted the sewing machine. She wanted to make a quilt. I said, you should just use my sewing machine. Come and get it, and I'll see your quilt in a year. See what happens. And then she said, you remind me of Fran Lebowitz. And I can't imagine that I am. I knew she meant it as a compliment,
mm-hmm.
but she's from Hawaii, and I'm the first person that of a certain age that she's ever met in New York City, although I'm really from Minnesota, but okay. It was just kind of interesting to talk to somebody and realize that person would be in the audience and what makes her laugh. And I think the written word, when you can actually sit and read somebody's writing and laugh, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you should be able to read a play and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I probably work from morning pages, and I have a very, my mind is very visual. And just sometimes I got to move or I get really depressed. So I also do ballet with the New York City Ballet I do the New York City Ballet workout twice a week, and then and everything is beautiful at the ballet. Yes,
That's great. Judi, what is the one book that made a true impact on your life, that changed your way of thinking or just made you look through a different lens?
That's so hard to answer. Wow, one book, because there've been so many, right? Uh, there's a book called Homecoming by John Bradshaw,
Mhm.
and I found that to be a really insightful book into why people are the way they are. Okay,
Mhm.
from someone who could really, really explain it in kind of layman terms, if you will, not the textbooks that I also read a lot of. So I think Bradshaw is an author really worth reading.
Great.
Isn't that inner child work? Am I wrong? I used to be a John Bradshaw fan, but you just sparked a memory. I haven't thought of him in a really long time. Around the time of Codependent No More and
Mhm.
all of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly who he is and what he writes about.
Mhm.
But he really, it's really about really understanding that inner child and embracing it,
Yeah.
and nurturing your inner child.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
but he writes it in a way where people can really identify with it and very clearly how to do it. So
Hmm.
Great. Doug, who have you studied with that made the biggest impact on your career?
Oh, that's easy. Three people: Karen Hartman, Rogelio Martinez, and Eric Webb.
Okay,
They're
great.
they're all playwrights. They're all Eric is also a dramaturge, and every one of them has been. In fact, I'm taking a workshop with Karen now, and I'm also taking a workshop with Eric. And Eric, if I may, a little shameless self promotion. Eric is directing a short play that I just found out is going into the Queen's Short Play Festival next month. So I'm very pleased about that.
That's great. Patrice, when it comes to this work, what takes up the most of your time?
Oh gosh. Well, coaching people, I would say, you
Mhm.
know, you see, 5 people a day or something like that, but it's fun. It's always energizing. Yeah, that's where the fun is. So,
And Deborah, just the opposite. In your career, what is getting the least amount of your time that should be getting more time?
Well, I know that I know I'd feel happier if I sang every day, but I don't
mhm.
always sing every day. And well, I'm just shortening my life. That's all there is to it. I guess I have a death wish. No, I sing. I go to church on Sunday because I really love to sing, and as a Lutheran, we just sing a lot of hymns. And I sing on Monday in a group of people, and then I would say I sing with people at least 3 days a week. And but that doesn't mean I can't. Like, why am I not singing in the shower? Well,
Mhm.
there's a thing called Snule where you can actually have. Um, I should be singing more. I mean, because the people that you audition with, there's no doubt in my mind when you're doing 8 shows a week, you sing better than you do when you're not doing 8 shows a week. So the discipline is to sing every day, even
Well,
15 minutes.
I have a morning mix that I listen to every morning, and it's on
Uh-huh.
shuffle, so I never know what's going to come up. And
Mhm.
and I only allow that to play for 1 hour, and I sing along,
Oh,
and
good.
and it's great to do that. But I want to say that you all inspire me, and I'm going to give my closing remarks. And then I'm going to give each of you a chance to have your closing remarks. And we're going to go in the same order that we came in. Doug, Patrice, Deborah, and Judi, you'll have the final word today. Um, And my closing remarks is always the same. But for anyone who's watching for the first time, I hope that this will drink in. And those of you who are returning, we appreciate that. Um, this is not lip service. I mean what I'm saying. I always say I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list, and the fourth name that pops up, reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. And let that person know the impact that they've made on your life. And by doing so, you're going to make an impact on their life. And what I would like all of you to do is to report back to me and let me know how this goes. So that's your homework assignment.
Talk about accountability, Richard.
Yes. So I have a dear friend, Sean Moniger, and he says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different size boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper on your side.
Woo!
And I'm going to leave, speaking of unsinkable. And Doug, I'm turning it over to you. And thank you all for being here. Keep creating.
Thank you, Richard. I just want to say one thing about today. When I got the invitation for this and saw what the topic was, the timing was incredible. I'm Facebook friends, or I've become friends with a lot of kids I went to school with in the 70s. I grew up in South Florida, and then we moved to New York when I was 12. But I've become friends. They found me on Facebook. They remembered me from 50 years ago. And there's a reunion, 50th anniversary of 8th grade graduation, and I'm going to go to it. But one of the kids said, what I remember most about you was how creative you were. You were such a creative child. And then I got this invitation. So to me, it was like, okay, this is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So thank you for inviting me, Richard. It's, as always, just a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Doug. Patrice?
Yeah, so this has been fun, and these topics are right up my alley. So it was fun talking to everyone. Judi, nice to meet you. And do you go by Deborah Jean or just Deborah?
Deborah Jean. DJ is fine too.
DJ, I like that. Okay, so you and Doug, nice to meet you. And Richard, as always, he's fun and he asks the best questions, doesn't he? So I would like to leave everybody with there's an article that I've read by a man named Emmett Fox, and the title of the article, it was written a long time ago, is Your Heart's Desire. And I believe everyone is here to live their heart's desire, and so many people aren't. And we're all here with a special gift, a special talent. And he says, sometimes God will whisper in your ear, what that is. And if you really listen, it might embarrass you or scare you to tell someone else, but that's your true gift. And that's what you're here to do and that urging from God, universe, something like that, to really step into that person that you're here to be and live your heart's desire. So my wish for all of you is that you step out and live your heart's desire.
Thank you, Patrice. DJ?
Well, I think today's, it was very inspirational. I love the fact that I dug up my program and could read my letter from June that inspired me. And I think I want to keep making younger friends and being as inspirational as June was to me. And no matter what happens with my play, I think to go into the future as fearlessly as possible and focus and help other people focus. I love taking photographs. I love taking selfies. I love telling people, look at the green light, because then they'll take a better selfie. But no, I love it. I love connecting with people, and I look forward to doing more of it. And that's just thankful for Mr. Skipper.
Absolutely. And it's really nice to connect with you.
Thank you.
Take care. So I decided, in light of both today's show and what Richard always says, always have a skipper by your side, to think of life and who we are and what we do in life, kind of like we do a sailboat on the seas. So the pessimist complains about the wind, the seas, and the sailboat that they're in. The optimist believes it's all going to magically right itself and not capsize before reaching the shore. But the realist adjusts her sails for smooth sailing until reaching the docks. So make sure you read the wind and the currents so you can ride the waves to your intended destination. We'll see you in 2 weeks.